Today's episode is about leadership and empowerment. I am joined today by a fantastic guest, Cheri Dixon, who is here to share her journey and her wisdom with us. Cheri kicks things off by sharing her own path from being a teacher to becoming a principal, and then eventually transitioning into her current role as a leadership and business development coach. We talk about topics like self-discovery, overcoming those limiting beliefs, and the importance of gaining really relevant experience for a leadership role. During our conversation, we really emphasized the need for women to cultivate their own identities and their leadership skills, while also supporting and empowering others along the way. It's all about personal growth, resilience, and taking those courageous steps toward fulfilling your dreams. So grab another cup of coffee and get ready to be inspired. Let's go. Are you in a new season of your life? Are you stuck and searching for clarity so you can make a career change? Do you just need the courage to switch careers? Are you ready to follow God's plan for your career? Welcome to Choose Your Next Yes. Hi, Kindred. I'm Mel, a career transition coach, mom of grown-ups, coffee lover, and God girl. I've had a lot of big life changes, and I haven't always been clear about God's plan for me. This led to stress and anxiety and a lack of clarity and courage to make a career move. I finally started listening to God's voice to find clarity and peace and stopped being scared to make a move and achieve my career transition goals. Now, my mission is to help you learn to listen to God's voice and know when to say yes to the career you've always wanted and no to everything else. Let me show you how to clarify your purpose and find courage to pursue your personal and professional goals in your midlife and beyond. Throw down your self-doubt, dust off your dreams, Kindred. It's time to reset and refine and reclaim the woman you once aspired to be. Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Mel Vandevort, and today I'm going to double dip because I have an amazing guest with me today. So I'm actually going to put this episode on my Empowered Educator podcast and my Choose Your Next Yes podcast. And ladies, this one is a little more focused for you today. Guys, you can listen. It's totally fine. But we're going to be talking a little bit more to the women because we're going to be talking a little bit about women's leadership and just high achieving women. And so we really kind of want to focus on the ladies today. So I have today with me, I have Cheri Dixon. She's coming to us from Houston, Texas, and I'm super excited to have her on here. I think she's my long lost twin in a sense, because when we were doing the discovery call, it was almost like we were mirror images of each other in some of the things that were happening in our lives. So welcome to the show, Cheri. I'm super excited to have you here today.
Thank you, Mel. I am super excited as well. And you are right. I feel like everything you say, I'm like, oh yeah, I did that. Or I've had that happen. So we are long lost sisters for sure.
Yes, I agree. And God puts people in your life for a reason. So I think he puts certain people in there just to validate what you're feeling sometimes, and then say, you know, there's someone who's just like you and they're going through the same thing as you. And guess what? You're going to make it. Both of you are going to make it, or that person's already made it and you're going to be just fine because see, they came out unscathed on the other side. Or if you're a little bit scathed, I guess that's a word. I don't know. It's still okay. And you're going to make it through anyway. So Cheri, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to dive into today's content.
Absolutely. So, like she said, I'm Cheri Dixon. I'm here in Houston, Texas. I'm a leadership and business development coach. I focus mainly working with female leaders and business owners who they had enough skill set to get started. They got into the right position or they started their journey in entrepreneurship. But we all know that those basic level skills are only going to take us so far. And so I work with those ladies who they want to be amazing. They don't want to just be average or just okay, even just good. Nobody wants to be just good. I guess that's that high achiever in me, and my belief. But knowing that there's so much research out in the world that says women hold themselves back as compared to men. And I really feel like we are doing ourselves a disservice. So that's kind of how I got onto that path. Coupled with my previous experience, I'm pretty new into my business. I started in June of 2023. After leaving public schools, I was a principal for 16 years, where I would go into failing schools and turn them around quickly so the state would not come and take them over. And so I learned a lot about successful organizations and what it takes to get you into that or onto that path of success so that you can be great. And I couple that information along with my experiences, and that's how I get here. I'm also a mom. I have a daughter who is 33 and she's getting married this year. So I'm very excited
Yay,
about that.
congratulations.
Thank you. She's my only child. So of course we're going big.
Yes.
Going to be amazing, but she's also a teacher. She was in the classroom for about 6 years, and now she is a specialist outside of the classroom working with the littles. I was more upper elementary. She likes the littles, kindergarten and first grade. So I'll give her that piece, right?
Well, I tell you, when I first started, I wanted to be with the littles. And as I got older, I wanted to be with the older kids. So as I grew up, I wanted my kids to be older too. So
Yeah, I'm the same way. I didn't really enjoy the wet shoelaces after kids came out of the bathroom,
oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
But the struggle is real, of course. In addition to that, I'm a runner. I run the Houston Half Marathon every year. I don't win, but I do finish, and that's always a great accomplishment. And I'm an author. I'm getting ready to release 2 more books. So these will be numbers 3 and 4.
Wow.
And
Congratulations on that as well. And I am hopefully, my fingers are crossed, next Wednesday, my first solo book will be coming out, Educator to Entrepreneur. So I'm super excited about that.
it's such an exciting and I almost said therapeutic kind of experience, right? Because it makes you, especially if you're writing about your own self, it makes you really understand. And I even wrote in a leadership book that will be coming out later this year. And even just reviewing my journey in leadership, it was just good to go back and see, oh, yeah, you do know what you're talking about, right?
Yes, yes, yes. So when we were doing our discovery call and we were chatting, you told me how you moved into your principal position. So can you kind of tell us about that? And you said something about your principal came to you. And so tell us that story.
Absolutely. So I'm going to back up just a little bit because I always knew I was going to be a teacher, right? I was 6 years old and my first grade teacher was basically my hero. I thought she was amazing. And this was back in the 70s. So, teachers had to wear, we call them nylons, right? Back in the day,
Right, right.
heels and the skirts and all of the things. I don't even know if some of the girls will even know what nylons are, but nonetheless, she always was put together. And I grew up in a home that was a little bit, I say messy. My mom had some mental health kinds of things going on, and she would forget to come to school and pick me up at the end of the day. So my teacher was always there to make me feel like I was still wanted and still important. And so my journey kind of progressed, and I originally wanted to be a PE teacher because I believe in your health and wellness so much. However, I pivoted and became an elementary education major, and I took my first job in Houston. So I'm originally from small town Iowa, and I transitioned here with my ex-husband and my daughter, who was about to start kindergarten at the time. And it was a big city, and we were terrified. And I was kind of terrified to take on my first class, right?
Right.
Especially in a community that was so much different than what I grew up in. But I've learned how to navigate and loved being in the classroom. It was probably, I think if you would have asked me my 4th year in, I would have told you I am living my dream life. Because it was just so fulfilling and rewarding. And I worked with second language learners and new to the country mainly. And so it was just so great to see them make so much progress. However, my principal started having me sit on different committees, and I was a mom also in the school. And so I was on the PTA board and just did different things. And I did it because I wanted to learn. I've always been hungry to learn. However, as I was starting my 5th year in the classroom, I got a call, and I write a little bit more detail about this in my book, but I got a call and she calls me into her office and says, "Congratulations, we're taking you out of the classroom and we're going to start grooming you to become a principal." And I was like, no, no, no. But of
Right.
course, you're standing in front of your principal and some district administrators and you go, "Yes, okay, thank you. Thank you so much."
Right.
Yeah, because you don't say no, right? And inside, like my voice is screaming at me, "No, you can't do this. You're not good enough for that." And I never had anticipated going into the principalship, but it started me on a path. And a few years later, I became an assistant principal and quickly moved into the principal position. I was in my early 30s, and the rest is history. I stayed in that spot for 16 years.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's always nice when someone sees the potential in you and starts cultivating that in a way that helps you move forward in your own career. So that's amazing. So tell us a little bit more about your journey. I know that we also talked about you and I kind of have the same thing where we want to talk to everybody. We want to take care of everybody, but you've kind of really started focusing a little bit more. So tell us what your focus is now and what that looks like for the women in your path.
Absolutely. So knowing I wanted to still continue to have an impact on the world. And I think that has always been my mantra, so to speak, right?
Mhm.
Even as a kid, I was always the one kind of organizing the neighborhood games and taking care of my siblings and all of that. So as I was transitioning out, once I made that decision, I got a life coaching certification and I really wanted to focus on women in their midlife. Women like me who have maybe
Mhm.
gone through a divorce or lost a spouse, or their children were moving away and they were becoming empty nesters, or even in their careers, kind of hit that
Mhm.
glass ceiling and didn't know what else to do. And what I was finding was that so many women were telling me that they had lost themselves so much that they couldn't even tell somebody what they liked to do
Mhm.
because they had altered their life so much to accommodate their spouse or their family. And then it's like, I don't even know who I am anymore.
Right. Well, their identity was all of those things, and they
Absolutely.
maybe didn't even get to cultivate who they were before they ever became a mom, a wife, an employee, because it was what they needed to do to make ends meet. They had to have a job of some sort. And so they just didn't even get to form their own identity before they became all of these other things.
Yes, absolutely. And it's sad, and here's the thing. The reason I wanted to really focus on that was that I didn't want women to feel like they made a mistake by doing that. I wanted them to feel like I accomplished that part of my life. Now what? What's
Mhm.
next for me when I can
Mhm.
focus on myself? And so I was 100% on board with that. I started the podcast, which is called Strong Inside and Out. And it's all about being a strong woman on the inside and out. And I
Mhm.
wrote in books about when you know your moment that you're going to be great and just all the self-development, had a blog and all of the things. But when I actually walked out of my office at the end of May in 2023, I felt very lost. And I think because I had been doing that job for so long, but I
Mhm.
loved the job. That's not why I left. I loved the problem solving. I loved building other leaders. I loved being a mentor to new principals and doing all of the things. And I felt a little bit lost. And
Mhm.
so I decided to make a pivot. And that's when I felt like I really wanted to focus on women who are leaders, who are not afraid to be a leader,
Mhm.
who are not, and I'm going to say this in this manner, but go with me on it, who are not embarrassed about wanting to be the leader. Because I think a
Yes.
lot of women, yeah, you've seen it, I'm sure
Yeah.
a lot of women are like, well, if I'm the leader, I'm going to have to be bossy and I'm going to have to make people do things. Well, yes, but there's a way to do that. And it's not a shameful identity because we need good leaders in the world. We have a lot of leaders out there,
We
but we
do.
need leaders who will empower their people. And we don't have a lot of empowering leaders out there.
Yes. And even the embarrassment can come from those limiting beliefs of I'm not good enough to do this position and people aren't going to listen to me. Or I mean, there are so many things. I'm a perfectionist, and that is one of my biggest limiting beliefs, and didn't even realize that was a limiting belief for a long time, that perfectionism, because it's not good enough in my eyes to ever be put out into the world. And so that has held me back from doing a lot of things because I never think it's good enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Even I'll give you an example. I had a teacher I hired, my second year, I want to say, at this final school. So about 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And she is on a path of being amazing. She was our district teacher of the year last year. She's just such a phenomenal person and teacher. And when I was starting this teacher anthology, so I have a book coming on National Teacher Day, May 7, called The Heroes in Our Classrooms. I hand selected teachers to write a chapter in my book about why they went into education and what they learned along the way, hopefully to get into the hands of others, right?
Right.
So I select her, and she comes to the first meeting, and I can tell, because I know her, I can tell she's processing something and she's hesitant. Well, we get ready to have our second meeting, and she calls me beforehand and she says, I'm really sorry, Miss Dixon, but I can't do this. And I said, well, why? Tell me why. What's going on? Let's talk this through. And she said, because my work is not good enough yet.
Wow.
And, I had to respect her boundaries because I knew it would put her over the edge. And she's having a tough year at school this year as well. So there was a lot of other factors. However, it made me sad. It made my heart sad.
Right.
And those are the type of people. So in addition to working with current leaders, I also work with aspiring leaders, because those are the people that we need to have out in the world, that you care about your work so much that you're going to work hard to do your best, because that's what's going to impact the world in the future.
Yes. Yes. And it's good when you have people like your principal and like yourself who see that potential in someone else, and you try to cultivate that. Sorry, I got a hair stuck to my lip. You try to cultivate that. And then it's hard when even you didn't want to leave the classroom, but you were almost too scared not to because you had someone advocating for you. But then this teacher, was kind of that opposite end and just doesn't see the shining star within themselves. So it's amazing when we have people who can help you cultivate that. And we just have to, as leaders, we have to, like you said, be conscientious about their feelings, but don't stop cultivating that just because they're not ready, because maybe they really are ready. They're just scared to take that leap. And my mantra this year, my word of the year, only it's actually three words, is take bold action. Do it imperfect. Get it out there. It doesn't matter that it's not perfect. Nobody's going to know it's not perfect but you.
Well, and that's the thing, you said two important pieces. Number one, as leaders, it is our job to build other leaders. It really is. It is our duty. Somebody did that for all of us. And if every leader steps back and looks at their journey, we would all be able to say, yes, this person had an impact on my future success. Number two, we do have to know our people. And that's what makes us great leaders, is having those relationships with people. I'm not giving up on this girl. I even said to her, she sent me a message last week that she wants to change districts, and if I could be a reference. And I wrote back and said, I really wish that I was ready to hire people in my business, because you would be one of my first hires. And she wrote back and said, thank you for not giving up on me after I didn't go into the book. So she knows exactly what I have planned for her, and she knows exactly what her path is going to be. But that's the thing. We have to have those skills as leaders to be able to go, okay, it might not be yet, but we're going to get there. And if you read my book, you'll hear my inner thoughts about that decision. Because when I said, no, 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 in my mind, when my principal was saying, yes, 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 it took me a minute, but I'm one of those people. I woke up one morning about 2 weeks after, and I said to my ex-husband at breakfast, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to become a principal. And he was like, okay. And I said, okay, it's going to be hard. And he's like, but you can do this.
Yes.
And I was on that path. So it was just, I had to digest it. I had to process it. And I had to be ready to leave something that was so comfortable and be uncomfortable for a little while as I was growing and moving into that next level.
Right. And I didn't really have anybody that cultivated that leadership in me, maybe a little bit, but not to the point of saying, I think you would make a great principal or anything like that. That was a desire that I had within myself. And that grew as I realized there are some things that can be better in education. And so that was my catalyst for going into administration. And now it's my catalyst for my own educational consultancy. But the point I want to make is you have to pour into others to help them grow. And it's not just about pouring into yourself to grow. You need people to pour into you, and you have to pour into others first, because once you start pouring into others, that's when you start realizing what your leadership potential is. And you can start cultivating your own leadership growth when you start pouring into others, because that's when you refine everything about yourself. So you define it, then you refine it. And that's part of my book as well, is that define, then refine as you go along, because your journey is never over. You are always going to be refining who you are, what your message is, and what you can pour into others.
Absolutely. And I would have to say, just as a side note, I would have to disagree with you probably, because you did have somebody influence you, all those somebodies that were not doing something as well as it could have been done. Because that's another thing too. I didn't always learn from the greatest people. Of course, I had amazing mentors. I had amazing schooling. I went to the University of Houston. I studied a while at Harvard. I mean, I had some amazing experiences, but I also had some really awful leaders on my journey that taught me everything not to do.
Yes.
And so I think we think the teachers that guide us and mold us are the ones that are amazing, but they're also the ones that aren't doing so great. And we know that there's a better way, or a more empowering way to do it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We are running a little bit short on time now. So give me, or not me as much as my audience, give my audience the women who are ready to move into a leadership position, who want to take that next step, who are scared to take that next step. Give them some empowerment right now. Give them some tips, some last words.
Two things. You started to mention one. Figure out what your limiting beliefs are, because we all have them. And whether you think you do right now or not, you do. And they're going to pop up when you least expect it. You'll never be able to totally eliminate those beliefs. They're always going to be there. But once you are aware of what they are, then you can devise a way to accommodate yourself when you start to feel them. Because fear, perfectionism, worthiness, past experiences, they're always going to be there. But you can overcome it by addressing it, right?
Right.
So that's nugget number one.
And reframing your thinking.
And
so first you have to recognize it, then you have to reframe that thinking around it.
Absolutely. And then number two, and this one, it's interesting because I just had a call with a potential lead this week, and she's just not ready, because when I said to her, you want to move into a leadership position, what are you doing to set yourself up to get some experiences without being in the formal position? Because she was telling me that she'll interview, but then she doesn't get the jobs because she doesn't have experience. And I say that to say, sometimes we have to start growing ourselves for the next position.
Yes.
So if you want to step into that, you're going to supervise a team of 5, let's just say, but you've never supervised anybody before. Donate your time. You're not going to get paid for it, but you have to be willing to put in some free time and gain that experience so that you have something to talk about.
Yes.
2 things are going to happen when you do that. Number 1, you're going to get some experience, right? And you can have the conversation. But number 2, that's going to be more impressive to a potential hiring company or a set of clients or something, because you're giving of yourself to gain. And so many people don't want to do that. They want to just get into the position because they know their craft well, but that's great. But you need to be able to know your next step just as well.
It's different knowing your craft and being able to do your craft.
Exactly.
And so you get more comfortable with yourself as a leader when you put yourself out there into these leadership positions. And that is one of the messages that I am constantly talking about on both podcasts, is putting yourself out there for those experiences. Volunteer, lead workshops, do whatever it takes to get that experience, refine your skills, and grow yourself first.
Absolutely. I totally agree. See, we are like long lost sisters.
I know it. I love it. I love it when God puts people in my life that I can connect with so seamlessly and so easily. So wonderful. So Cheri, tell us how we can connect with you.
For sure. I am on social media, most active on Facebook and LinkedIn. And you can find me Cheri Dixon or Cheri Dixon Consulting. You can email me, Cheri at CheriDixonConsulting.com. I like things to all kind of match and be simple. And then, of course, the website is CheriDixonConsulting.com. But I would love to connect and even just kind of talk you through a couple of thought processes to see if we're a fit to work together, or if not, get you on your road to being able to do big things and build a life that you love.
Wonderful. And tell us one more time what the name of your book is that's coming out soon.
It's coming out on May 28th, and it's called She Said Yes, and it made all the difference. You can find it on Amazon. It'll be ebook for 2 weeks, and then in June it will come out in paperback. But I've been getting a lot of amazing feedback so far, so it's something you want to get your hands on for sure.
Wonderful, wonderful. And my own book is coming out hopefully next Wednesday, 4/24/24, and it's called Educator to Entrepreneur. So it will be on Amazon as well. Cheri, it has been such a blessing to have you on the show and to hear your perspective on women in leadership. And I'm just so happy that we got to connect. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and keep doing the great work, because so many people are leaving the world of education now, but still need to continue to impact the world in different ways. And I know collaborating like this, making sure that we stay on paths like this, so we can help everybody be able to get into their dream job, because when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Exactly. I love it. And do what sets your soul on fire. So wonderful. Thank you so much. And for my audience, you know that I will have all of Cheri's links in my show notes, so you won't have any trouble finding her or connecting with her. Thank you for joining me today on either podcast, and I will see you back here again next week. Bye-bye.